What's up, everybody? We are back. In case you missed us, this last week we were in Sundance Film Festival, but we are here now. It is January 28th, a Wednesday. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you guys too. We got gold and silver trading like a cryptocurrency, the US dollar value plummeting, and
Feeling like a
Bitcoin.
shitcoin.
Bitcoin is flatlined. So good times.
Yeah, wild times in the world. Yeah, but we're here for it.
Yeah, I actually I'm assuming a lot of people are buying the top of this new shitcoin called gold. Um, just seems like a good idea. People like to buy green candles, you know?
Totally. Yeah,
Um,
probably a good idea.
I
I
mean,
mean,
why
I thought
buy?
we were at the top of a green candle a while ago, but Peter Schiff is just clicking his heels together mid-air just daily.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but why buy gold at 2,500 when you could buy it at 5,000, you know?
Makes sense to me.
That's how I look at it. It's just YOLO. Um, open up a short. Oh wow, gold is still pumping. Now it's at, oh my gosh.
No, you're not shorting that.
Um, here
You're
let's
not. That's not a trade you want to play with, because who knows how much further. According to Caleb, the U.S. dollar is going to zero. So
I'll eventually be right. I may not live to see it, but I'll eventually be right.
but yeah, this is a fun looking chart right here.
the day after everyone launches their nukes, it goes to zero, and you're like, I did it.
Let's see here. What do we got going on here? What this? What are those things? Anyway, this is the chart of gold. On the daily. That's a fun looking chart. Here's the weekly chart.
I would never short that chart because look at the history of it. It's like, yeah, it goes down a little, but it's just like you're picking pennies up in front of a steamroller, you know?
Yeah. No, this is not the chart that you want to be shorting right now.
I wouldn't short it ever. It's just look, you're not making any money on those shorts. It's like it goes down a little bit, and then when it goes up, it just explodes.
Well, what's interesting, yeah, true. This period right here from 2011 through 2020, right? So this 10-year period, it was basically a cup of handle. Here's the cup, here's the handle, got a couple handles, but yeah, this was you've seen it basically relatively stable with some ups and downs. Bitcoin low is about $1,000, and the Bitcoin high was, Bitcoin. Gold low was 1,000, and the gold high was about 2,000, and those were the highs of all time. And then it was really, the last low. This is actually funny. The last low, and this is when I bought gold, was right here. I bought it at 17, like it was like 1730, right around this 2022 time period. So I basically caught them, which is pretty neat. And yeah, wow, this is just crazy. I actually think that the silver chart is even crazier.
Ooh, that's a short squeeze.
You don't want to go down that ski slope.
Yeah. Anyway, so I hope everyone got their shit coins, gold and silver. Just
yeah. Well, what's funny about silver is I remember when they were shorting or when they went and pumped GameStop, and they said that the next things that they were gonna pump was the theater chain, what was it?
AMC.
AMC and silver, because silver had like flatlined and there's all these shorts on silver. And so I went and bought some silver because I like missed the GameStop thing. So I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna
Oh,
buy
right.
silver because it's gonna pump next. And it didn't. It just like flatlined. But it's done really good for me over the
Yeah, it's
last
a good buy.
like 4 years. What was that, like 4 years ago? So had to hodl, but I was like, well, can't hurt to have silver, even though it's just flat. And so yeah,
Yeah.
it's done well since I think I bought it at like 19 or $20. Yeah, it's pretty decent.
Yeah. Well, yeah, $20. Yeah, 26 bucks. Kind of stuck in that 20 to 30 range for a long time, you know, and then
I can tell you
now
what
it
it
just
was.
shot up to 100, 120. So nice little 5x. But yeah, it's we just got massive devaluation of the US dollar. I think it's lost like 10 or 11% last year. And I think it lost another 2.5% this last month of January. So the month's not even over. But that's part of the reason why the price is skyrocketing. And it's interesting because inflation, we're not seeing the inflation directly yet, but there's always these indicators of inflation. So when inflation skyrocketed after COVID, you saw house prices shoot up, you saw car prices shoot up, and everyone kind of attributed that to the supply chain issues, as well as the stimulus money, and inflation went up to 9%. But one thing that didn't happen is you didn't see gold prices go up by 2x. And so people could be, getting excited about looking at gold and silver prices, but these types of things are signs of heavy inflation, which basically just means the devaluing of the US dollar. And
It's very chaotic the way it happens. Like you don't just see all prices just ease up because there's a lot of effort going on at the Fed and their member banks,
Yep.
investment banks, and so on to try to suppress inflation because it looks bad for them if they've got all the prices just inching up. So that there's a lot of shorts going on. They're trying to, like, for example, you buy gold and you buy gold certificates because you don't want to have a bunch of crap in your basement that you've got to sell to somebody at some point in the future, and it's just a
Right.
pain. So you buy gold in a vault, and then, well, yeah, okay, it's vaulted. The U.S. government or whoever goes to the vault and says, hey, we'd like to borrow some of that gold that you have on deposit. And the vault owner says, well, what can you guarantee? And they're like, blank check. And it's like, okay, fine. We're sure that you're going to pay us back that gold, so we'll let you borrow it. No, they borrow it, and then they say, hey, gold for sale. And then everybody buys the gold that they're selling. And then what do they do with it? Well, they put it in the vault. And then the government comes and says to the vault owner, well, we'd like to borrow that gold too. Because they've already borrowed it and then sold it, and then they borrow it again and sell it again. And then you can imagine that as long as the gold stays in the vault, they can do this over and over and over again. And then at some point, somebody says, maybe like Russia or China gets pissed off at the U.S. and they say, "Wow, we're going to take the gold out of the vault." Yeah. And then they have to unwind every one of those loans or that they borrowed the gold, and then you've got the short squeeze. And I think that's what's happening with silver right now. It's basically just like, and I'm speculating here. I'm just saying, like, China just said, "Hey, we want to take delivery," because silver is also an industrial metal, so there's a reason why they want delivery, and they asked to take delivery, and now that short gets squeezed, or all of those shorts get squeezed, and then you have this skyrocketing price, and then they kind of start looking around, saying, "All right, who has some silver? Maybe there's some silver in Venezuela. Let's go knock on his door and see what he's got." And then you see them trying to maybe there's silver in Greenland. Maybe that's what they're interested in. Trying to figure out how they can get the price back down and get things under control. So you can see silver go pump, and then silver will relax as it did like electricity energy in Europe back in 2022. There was a massive pump of that, and then it relaxed, and then it'll be something else. Somebody was telling me that they think copper is in similar situation to what silver was a couple of years ago, and so we're likely to see this short situation where it ends up short squeezed with copper.
Yeah, look, and platinum, and I think you're right. I think people are going to look for things. It's just like with shit coins, people go, oh, this one popped already. What's the next one that didn't pop yet? But
it's kind of an easy strategy if you know what's going on. You
Yeah.
know how much short pressure there is. You know the inflation's coming. The inflation's going to wind up the spring. There's going to be X amount of short, and it's just a question of which one's going to go first.
Mhm.
And you can just speculate on commodities and figure that one of these things is going to get out of control, and they're going to lose control over it, and it's going to explode, and you'll double your money.
Yeah. It's a little gamble, never hurt nobody. Also, probably not a bad idea to start chipping away at some bullion. I actually saw a funny post that someone made where you can take your Costco credit card that gives you like, I forget, 5% cash back, and you can go buy an ounce of gold right now for like $5,000 at Costco and get 5% cash back on that, which is a few $100. And then gold goes up in value. Like it just went up now 10% almost since you bought it. So, and you could just reinvest. I mean, it's kind of an interesting trade there, but you can just go buy a 1 ounce little bar of gold from Costco, and they've struggled to keep the price in parity with the value. So
the problem with buying those little bars of gold is that you have to figure out what you're going to do with them, and to try to sell them back. Typically it's like maybe 80% of what you bought it for. So you really need the price to go up a lot. And then if you're trying to sell it back to net your profit, like you're going to one of those we buy gold places, and the guy's going to like kind of look at it and be like, the best I can do for you is 80% a spot or something like that. It's not as good as like certificates, but then the certificates have the other problem, which is that the vault owner of who's issuing those certificates is also getting hit up and like, hey, we'll borrow all of that, and we have a blank check that we can guarantee against. We're the government, and would you like to lend it to us? And they do.
Yeah.
And it's not really your problem, because you kind of know that the state's going to come in and pay off that debt, but it is not as effective. If you're trying to buy it and trying to get the price up, you would like it to be out of that vault so that they can't just keep borrowing and lending.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, there's certainly some stocks that can give you exposure to what's going on. And I mean, from a macro standpoint, certainly not good. But there was no indication that this American administration was going to do anything that was going to be good long term for the United States. I mean, that's for sure. It was just going to be a raid on the treasury, and try and get money to be cheap and accumulate as much assets as you can. And I mean, they even got Trump quoted yesterday saying, hey, are you happy with what's going on with the US dollar? And he said, yeah, I'm thrilled. So he clearly is excited to see the US dollar lose 15% of its value in the last 12 months. Go figure.
Yeah, I don't really disagree with you. Trump has not panned out to very much in the second term, but in his defense, this has been going on for at least since 1971. It's just a continuation of the same curve.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, but the whole kind of point of it is you make the rich richer and the poor poorer, and you create that divide, because if you have the assets, then you can do whatever you want. And so you can diversify and now you're buying dollars for cheap as opposed to having dollars that are cheap, and now there's no value in it.
Yeah, well, we'll see stocks will go up. One thing that does happen when money gets cheap is stocks go up. So we know that's going to be the next thing that's going to happen. We saw it happen in 2020 ish, 2020, 2021, 2022. And and with the new Fed chair, if they go and manipulate the Fed to lower interest rates, that's going to be cheap money. US dollar is going to lose more value. Inflation will rise, but I think, and we'll see that get even worse. You're seeing the first indication right here. I remember we were celebrating about house prices going up in 2021, but that was inflation filtering into the economy. It was not good, but you felt like it. You always feel like with inflation, you always feel good about the part of inflation that makes you feel richer. So like when your assets are going up in value, you're like, whoa, this is awesome. Like I'm getting rich, but you don't realize that that's the first indicator of inflation, So when stocks are going up, crypto's going up, when, we've already seen food prices going up, and now you're seeing commodities going up. These are the first flags of problems. And look, it's great when you bought a car for 10,000 and you sell it for 20,000. You feel great, or you buy a house for $1 million and now it's worth 1.4 million. You feel great, but that's inflation. Because a year ago that house was worth $1 million. Now you're selling it for 1.4. That's inflation. So, and last year we were buying gold for 2,000, something, 2,500. Now it's 5,000. That's called inflation. So, and that also is pointing to something that you don't generally feel, which is the devaluing of your home currency. But where you do recognize it is when you go travel, you go buy some euros or you go buy some British pounds. And I actually just saw a post that the US is looking to buy the yen and looking to make a major trade into the yen. And, because the yen is completely bottomed out in value. And so I think I read something to the fact that this is like the first time the US has done this in almost like 40 something years with the yen. But anyways, the indicator of what that is telling us is not good. It's not good about the US dollar if we're going to buy foreign currency to protect against the dollar decay.
Well, I imagine they're more trying to bail out Japan because Japan's their bro. But about stocks, I would not bet on stocks going up right now because there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of other stuff going on. The jobs reports are not looking great.
Mhm.
I would not be surprised to see stagflation. I wouldn't be surprised to see stock moderate growth as well, but I would not be surprised to see stagflation in this economy.
Yeah, it's probably a good indicator. I guess you would say, instead of like all stocks going up, probably certain stocks that you could identify.
The AI bubble is just going to keep getting bigger, and everybody's kind of like whistling in the dark and hoping that they're not in it when it pops. But everybody kind of knows it's a bubble in some way, and everybody's sort of like thinking, when is it going to pop? Because chatbots are cool and they're fun and they're useful, but they're not the basis of the entire economy.
Right.
So it's like, we just need to. Yeah, that whole thing's a disaster.
Yeah. No, I feel you on that. Josh, do you want to give a little update on our Sundance?
Yeah, Sundance was cool. The last dance in Park City, Utah.
Yeah,
which is pretty crazy. Yeah, the first time I went there was 2006. I was 21 years old, and so nice 20-year run on Sundance. It was it's kind of a bittersweet, I guess, but it was nice to get out there, nice to see everybody. We were able to tease a little bit about what we're doing to some trusted people within our circle, and yeah, it's just kind of just changes our whole vibe out there, and the whole swagger of what we're creating.
Yeah.
So that's been great, just to know people are excited and are they know the brand name that we're acquiring, and it's exciting for them, which gets us more excited. Also, a lot of stuff in the content development side of things, and just a lot of opportunities. It's just kind of, once we can move past this acquisition, it's just going to kind of open up all these opportunities of things we're able to do in collaborations. And so, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we still haven't completed the acquisition. Things are moving forward. They just, we haven't unlocked the opportunity yet. Unfortunately, I know people in the chat are a little annoyed at this point that it's like, but so are we, and we're ready to kind of get to work and start working on this project. But yeah, everything was super positive. We're going to be heading up to the Super Bowl. We're actually on the 1st, we're going to be meeting with our technology partner, and we're going to be sitting with them, going through kind of what this technology launch looks like, the whole integration, how we implement all the pieces of what we're doing, and kind of what the sprint looks like to launch. So that's going to be really exciting, and be able to start just digging in and building again, because we've kind of haven't been building much recently. And then we go to the Super Bowl, and going to meet with a bunch of people in the sports side of things, and getting into kind of all the sports opportunities, which is massive. It's just the biggest thing in entertainment right now is sports, which is kind of crazy. I mean, it's always been big, but it looks, I'd say if you were charting out sports, it would probably look similar to the gold and silver charts, because it's just, everybody is just chasing these sports rights and sports opportunities, and especially with sports betting and the poly markets and Kalshis of the world, and just everything that's kind of happened around the ability to what is it, bet kings, or
was it, or DraftKings?
DraftKings, thank you. Yeah, just all that stuff. I mean, it's just gotten so big. It's crazy how much money is flowing through those different platforms. So
yeah, and then you have Kalshi and Polymarket. It'd be
Right.
cool to hear if anybody in the community has been using any of those to wager on, world events or weather.
Yeah, I was actually, just while we were talking, I was seeing if there's any bets on Kalshi about how high gold will go before it crashes. But there's not. Maybe we start one. Could be a good one.
Start one. That's
There
funny.
was one for whether Trump's going to be able to buy Greenland, and I think it was only like 15 or so percent. If he gets Greenland in 2026, and it's surprisingly low.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, it's interesting, being so, because I do a lot of and I really got into it over the last couple of years, sports gambling, and and so there's a couple different ways that they can display the odds, where basically something close to like a 55%, they'll have different kinds of odds. It would be like American odds or whatever. So it'd be like minus 110, which is meaning that you have to put up $110 to make 100, right? But that also has an implied percentage win ratio to it. So minus 110 might mean, that there's like a 55% chance of it happening, of the event occurring. So that's kind of the correlation. So something like 15% might be, actually, we should look it up. It might be like minus 400 or something like that, meaning you have to put $400 up to make 100, So that's basically, you would say, for it not, if you were betting for it not to happen, that would not be a very good bet. But what happens is that a lot of people will go, well, the other side of that bet is that I put up 100, and if it happens, I make 400. And so you go, hey, that's good. That's a good wager, 4-1. But, it might not happen. The probability is only 15%, but still I can make 4 times my money if it does happen. So that's so a lot of people look for these like long shots because that's where you make the most money, but those are the least likely to happen, or it's like those are not necessarily, you could say, good bets in the sense that you're betting on something that has a low likelihood of occurring, but a high risk reward ratio, of course, right? So a lot of people getting exposure to Kalshi and Polymarket are going to be lured into high risk, high returns, or just kind of gambling at that point. And if you have some sort of insight, you can think that a long shot trade is, like more likely to happen than not. That could be good value, right? Because you have some insight on it. Otherwise, you're just, basically putting money out there that most likely you're going to lose.
Yeah, and a big problem with Polymarket is time. Like, okay, sure, you can make, maybe double your money, but you've got to risk adjust the value. And then by the end of 2026. So it's just like you got to tie that money up and take that risk for a long time.
Well, that's why sports is also valuable.
I think that this stuff would get a lot better if you could bet multiple places with the same money. So like, you've got $100 and you can say, all right, I'm going to bet that Trump gets Greenland because I think he wants it. And then I'm going to go and bet that whatever else, I'm going to bet this and this and this and this and this. And what happens is, if the you buy that bet and you have it's worth some value. And what would happen is, if any one of your bets, if the value of your bet portfolio drops too much, then you just get liquidated, right? So it'd be like leverage, but it would allow you to do multiple things with the same money. And if you're talking about like insurance, where there's a company that's betting that like everyone in the world is going to not crash their car, you have to leverage that money. You have to take the same money and bet on 1,000 or 1,000,000 people at the same time. And if one of them claims, the money's gone, and all the other ones unwind.
Yeah, well then, the problem becomes like, if somebody else wins that bet and you've already been liquidated, then they like have to unwind their bet when they're already in a bet, which kind of defeats the whole purpose of them betting in the first place. They're not trying to just, they think they're trying to win. So I
don't think it's a problem for the winner, because with Polymarket, you can sell a bet. So you can buy into you bet something, and then the odds like inch up, and you can sell it and take a profit. Or if the odds inch down, you can sell it and take your loss. So what it would be is, the leverage thing would be, you get to take $100, bet as if it was $1,000. But once all of the sum of your portfolio is down by 100, it all gets liquidated. It all just gets sold back.
Right. Yeah,
Sure.
that's certainly a way to do it. I mean, I would love for somebody to do something on the Packet Network with gambling. I mean, Josh and I were talking about this the other day. There's several different sites that have user interfaces, and I would just love it that people could do casino games and just whatever with their Packet, because it would just create a cool utility for it right out of the gate. I certainly would use it. I'd sports gamble with it.
We were doing it with mines. We'd be like standing in a line, and we would just get like 5 people into the mine game where everyone having to pick a square and blow up, then we lose everything. But we were cashing out after like 2-3x, and then just just building our bag. It was fun.
Yeah, it's super fun. Yeah, we
did get liquidated on a couple, but
we got liquidated on a couple, and but still, it's just fun. And if you can wager on sports, that would make it even more fun. I know that, Kalshi, it'd be cool to see if we could get a Kalshi or Polymarket integration with Packet as well. I'm not exactly sure how that would work, but definitely an opportunity there.
Yeah, definitely.
At the very least, a bridge, because right now bridge is just the USDC, right?
Well, yeah, but Polymarket is Polygon, so you just have to get a bridge to Polygon.
Right, to Polygon. So, but on Polymarket, it lets you wager using USDC or USDT too, right? Or you only can do it with Polygon, the token.
I think you can get in using you can enter, you can move USDT or USDC. It just has to be bridged onto the Polygon network. So you need like a few bucks worth of Polygon.
Yeah. So well, the lay of the land right now for us, and Josh kind of intimated this, is like this weekend we're heading up north to Northern California. We'll be sitting with our technology partner, who's also providing us with a major library to include on the platform, and to do all this integration on the AI front end technology that's going to be unique to what we're launching, and get that all kind of configured so that we understand, okay, so here's how much time it's going to take for this thing to go live later in the year, like when it's actually usable, probably closer to the end of the year, and we'll see if we can get it done even in Q4. We'll have more clarity on that, over the next few weeks, and certainly by the end of this week as well. And then the second piece is, as Josh said, going to the Super Bowl, because sports is a big part of the story in how we're going to get adoption onto this platform. And so those two pieces, obviously transaction doesn't need to close for us to begin those conversations and get things moving in the right direction. As far as timeline goes, the way the contract's written, we had this really aggressive timeline in the contract for the whole thing to close in 30 days. We signed the contract beginning of September, and it was really supposed to close by the end of, it was really supposed to close by the middle of October. And then we kind of said, hey, by the end of October, just can't imagine that it goes longer than that. Now the contract's written, they sent us a amendment that basically says once they provide access to software, it starts a 5 business day clock. And then we have 2 weeks to close once that completes. And we have a 2-week extension that we can request if we want. So once we get that notification, it's approximately 4 to 5 weeks from that date. And we haven't received that. He actually wrote us the big first week of January. He was like, oh, we're supposed to get it this week. And then now it's the end of January. We still haven't received it. So
we need to follow up with them right now.
We should hit them up today. But look, it's just sitting there in the wings. We have the exclusive on it, and we paid the deposit, so it's ours. We just need to complete this last piece of due diligence, and it will be a whole new day. Very exciting, though. It is really a transcendent opportunity that bridges between our work in the crypto space and cross technology, and then my background, Josh's background throughout the entertainment business, and it was really cool talking to people in Sundance about what we're doing, covertly, of course, but there's a lot of passion for these types of opportunities, and bringing some diversity into the entertainment ecosystem outside of just the usual suspects, because of course everyone wants to be using Amazon and Disney and Netflix, but the reality is that a lot of people, don't necessarily, at least on the distribution side, have access to those types of platforms. It's very exclusive in terms of who gets to put content there. So bringing a new platform into the, ecosystem and having it globally accessible is obviously a huge shift, and that's why we're pretty excited to know that it'll be, widely covered and really bring a lot of attention to everything that we're working on. Certainly going to be notable across the industry. So yeah, just chipping away and keeping our foot on the pedal, and obviously not a lot to do in the crypto space these days. That market, and it's just wild to see what's happened over the last year. And I think everyone thought that the Trump administration would be great for crypto, and it certainly was good for crypto regulation. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to kind of square at this point, but we certainly had a much more vibrant crypto ecosystem over the last 4 years than we've had over the last 12 months. What do you think that's attributable to, Caleb?
Oh, I think, let's see. Crypto trades a little bit with the stock market. People who were putting money into crypto, well, yeah, I mean, people are feeling a pinch right now because of inflation. Like inflation is just making everything more costly. People have to dip into their reserves. There's a lot less just putting money into stuff. So the money that's being made now is basically being made by playing a game against playing chicken with the banks and the short squeeze, and silver and gold. But the stock market is not doing great. And I think that crypto's a bit caught in the middle. It's between the stock market, where the economy is not looking that good, and it's kind of stagnating, and the dollar, which people are kind of divesting a US dollar. So that's a bit good for crypto, but not fantastic. So it's kind of like mediocre. That would be my just gut level analysis.
Well, God help us. Yeah, I think there's I think you're gonna have to stay tuned to find out what's going on in the world, because it's like the reality show that you just can't predict the ending. I mean, you wouldn't even be able to predict most of the stuff that's happening right now, but I mean, I think that's where it gets exciting to kind of step back into the media space, and to bring a little joy into people's lives, bring help solve some misinformation, help kind of bring everyone back to the middle. This politically, we've been so just divided. I think media is such a powerful medium to kind of bridge that gap, and so yeah, I get really excited to kind of step back into our old shoes and do something that can be very impactful on a major level that isn't owned by a monopoly, and we can do some cool stuff.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a very good point. Well, nice to be here with you guys.
Yeah.
Obviously, if anyone wants to catch us in the chat, ask questions, we're here to do all of that. And we are hopeful that in the next, it could be any day, it could be this week, that clock restarts. So, but we're not keeping our foot off the gas here in terms of everything we can do in lieu of making, the big announcement and start to make noise with it. But the idea is to obviously have a coordinated communication strategy that will include the launch. And then once we do that, we can start connecting the launch itself back to, the Packet project, and really articulating how we intend to make that happen. So yeah, it's a very, very exciting little moment. Cool. Well, without further ado, Josh, are you frozen? I think Josh froze. Without further ado, we are wishing you all the best, and we will catch you back here in a week.
As always, have a good one.
All right. Cheers.